Sakshat, directly. Shri, the goddess of fortune. Presita, being requested to go forward before the Lord. Devai, by all the demigods headed by Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva. Dristva, after seeing. Tam, him, Lord Nrsimhadeva. Mahat, very big. Adbhutam, wonderful. Adrista, never seen. Ashruta, never heard of. Purvatvat, due to being previously. Sa, the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi. Na, not. Upeyaya, went before the Lord. Shankita, being very much afraid. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The goddess of fortune, Lakshmiji, was requested to go before the Lord by all the demigods present, who because of fear could not do so. But even she had never seen such a wonderful and extraordinary form of the Lord, and thus she could not approach him. Purport. The Lord has unlimited forms and bodily features. Advaitam, Achyutam, Anadyam, Ananta Rupam. These are all situated in Vaikuntha. Yet Lakshmi Devi, the goddess of fortune, being inspired by Leela Shakti, could not appreciate this unprecedented form of the Lord. In this regard, Srila Madhvacharya recites the following verses from the Brahmanda Purana. Adrista Shruta Purvatvat Anyai Sadaranaya Janai Nishringham Sankiteva Shrir Loka Maha Yana Yoyo Prahade Chahiva Vatsalya Darshanaya Harer Api Ganatvamana Stata Brahma Pradadam Preshayat Rada Ekatraikasya Vatsalyam Vesheshat Darshayat Dari Avarashyapi Mohaya Kramanaivapi Vatsabaha. In other words, for the common man, the form of the Lord as Nrsimhadeva is certainly unseen and wonderful. But for a devotee like Prahlad Maharaj, such a fearsome form of the Lord is not at all extraordinary. By the grace of the Lord, a devotee can very easily understand how the Lord can appear in any form he likes. Therefore, the devotee is never afraid of such a form. Because of special favor bestowed upon Prahlad Maharaj, he remained silent and unafraid, even though all the demigods, including even Lakshmi Devi, were afraid of Lord Nrsimhadeva. Narayana Parasarve Nakutasjanya Bibhate. Bhagavatam 6:17-28. Not only is a pure devotee of Narayan like Prahlad Maharaj unafraid of any dangerous condition of material life, but also, if the Lord appears to mitigate the fear of a devotee, the devotee maintains his status of fearlessness in all circumstances. Vanchakalpatarubhascha kripa sindhu bhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Yesterday was the appearance day of Lord Nrsimhadeva, and we watched a movie which told the narration regarding the wonderful devotee of the Lord, Prahlad Maharaj, how he was tortured and harassed by the greatest demon, Hiranyakasipu, his father, and how he was ultimately protected, and how the demon was finally killed by the incarnation of Godhead, Lord Nrsimhadeva. So this verse, which we are reading today, fits within the narration. It is coming at a time after the appearance of Lord Nrsimhadeva. The form of God is always extraordinary. For many people, the fact that God has a form is itself extraordinary. Although people in this world can conceive that the different prophets or great preachers like Lord Jesus have a form, they cannot imagine what the form of God is. But the Vedic literature describes that form with so much detail. And the form of the Lord is certainly transcendental. Satchidananda Vigraha, eternal, full of knowledge and bliss. When we hear the pastimes of the Lord in any of his incarnations, we should never think of him in an ordinary way. We should always understand, as it is mentioned in the Gita, Ajoti Shana Vyapana Bhutara Mishvadopishan Prakrita Mishrama Dishtaya Sambhavami Atmamaya. That when God comes from the kingdom of God, he descends with his own form, which is constituted of his own energy, Sarup Shakti, not of this material energy, as our body is. For us, there is a difference between the soul and the body. But for the Supreme Lord, there is no difference between his inside and his outside. He is one whole Supreme Personality of Godhead, through and through. Here it is mentioned, Advaitam Achutam Anadi Ananta Rupam, that God has unlimited forms. This is also difficult to understand for those who are not conversant with the philosophy. How there can be many forms of God, and yet how God can be one. Because God is certainly one, and we do not worship many gods. Clearly he is one. It is mentioned in so many different places in Vedic literature that there are not many Supreme Lords. All are his servants, but there is one Supreme Lord. And yet we see unlimited forms of God are mentioned in the Vedic literatures. The Brahma Samhita clears this point by explaining how God can expand himself just like a candle flame can expand himself so many times. We see when a child lights a candle on a birthday cake and uses the candle to light many other candles, so the one flame gradually increases to so many more flames. In the same way, the Brahma Samhita informs us, the Lord is able to expand himself by his own energy into unlimited forms. And each one of them is equally powerful, Supreme Lord. So, it is different than an ordinary person. Just like mystic yogis have a power by which they can expand their form. Sometimes it is observed, at least from reading in Vedic literature, that a yogi can be seen in more than one place at the same time. And it is said that yogis can expand their body up to 8 times, to be present in 8 separate places. And there are examples of this, of different yogis who have done this in the past. But the expansions of Godhead are something different, because the yogic expansions, the expansions are not equally powerful. There's actually one person, and he only appears to be in many separate places. But in the case of God, he actually is in many places, as many forms as he has. He is fully there in all respects. That means with all of his potencies. The most expansive form of the Lord is known as Paramatma, by which he expands himself to be present within the heart of all living entities, and even within the atom. Andantarashta paramanu chayantarastam govindamari purusham tamaham bhajami. In the spiritual sky, Krishna expands many forms and populates all of these spiritual planets and presides over them as in his feature as Narayan. And he's called by different names according to how he holds his club and disc and lotus, club, disc, lotus, and conch. So the form of Nrsimhadeva is not different than the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead in a very extraordinary form. One of the planets in the spiritual sky is presided over by Nrsimhadeva, and those who are his devotees can achieve that abode. Now here it mentions that Lakshmi Devi was fearful to see the awesome form of Lord Nrsimhadeva. Just like we can imagine how a wife could become very fearful if suddenly her husband became extremely angry, so much so that she even could not approach him. Sometimes it happens. So this is an effect which is created by what is known as Lila Shakti. Prabhupada says, being inspired by Lila Shakti. That is something different, because sometimes people compare God's pastimes with the pastimes of ordinary persons. So this happens amongst those who consider themselves to be God. And so they say that everything I'm doing is Lila. That means that when I eat meat, it's Lila. Or when I have illicit sex, it's Lila. In other words, they compare themselves with God. But Lila, the word Lila, doesn't mean activities which are under the influence of the modes of material nature. In other words, although the activities of God may appear to be like those of an ordinary person, they're not. They're under his spiritual potency. Lila Shakti. Shakti means energy. And Lila Shakti is one of the energies of the Supreme Lord. Shri, just like the goddess of fortune, she is another potency of the Lord. And there are so many different potencies of the Lord. And one of them is known as Lila Shakti. And she assists the Lord and all of the devotees in performing the wonderful pastimes. Another, sometimes known as Yogamaya potency. Yogamaya potency has the same effect as Lila Shakti. What is that? That Lakshmi Devi actually should not be fearful. And she is not fearful. She could understand clearly that Lord Nrsimhadeva is her eternal husband. She knew very well. But by the influence of Lila Shakti, she became fearful. Just like we see in the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna is the eternal friend of Lord Krishna. He knows very well who Krishna is. But for some time, he becomes affected by forgetfulness, created by Yogamaya. Yogamaya is the spiritual potency which enables the Lord to conduct his activities with his devotees. If Arjuna was to have remembered everything about Krishna's glories, then what would have been the need for Krishna to teach him Bhagavad Gita? And if Krishna had not spoken Bhagavad Gita, how would we ever be able to become enlightened? Therefore, temporarily, Krishna places Arjuna under forgetfulness. And that temporary potency which creates this type of forgetfulness is known as Yoga Maya. Yoga Maya not only helps the devotee to forget, but sometimes also causes Krishna to forget. Sometimes people may ask, how can God be forgetful? Because God is all-knowing. But you see, in this picture here, Krishna is fearful. You see in the middle picture how Mother Yasoda is trying to tie up Krishna, and Krishna is afraid. So if Krishna is God, how can he be afraid? What is the answer? By the influence of this Yoga Maya potency. Now someone may say that means the Yoga Maya potency is greater than Krishna, because it can cover Krishna. The answer is yes and no, because the potency of God is dependent upon God. But still, by the grace of God, he may allow the potency to be more powerful than himself. The personification of the potency of Yoga Maya is Purnamasi. Purnamasi is the Yoga Maya potency, and she is the senior-most personality in Braja, and everyone listens to her. So now we should all listen to Purnamasi. But she is Purnamasi Dasi, servant of the original Purnamasi. So in Braja, this Purnamasi, she is a great devotee, dearmost devotee. She is a disciple of Narad Muni, and she is the mother of Krishna's guru, Sandipani Muni, and the grandmother of Madhu Mangal, who is Krishna's funny cowherd boyfriend. So, Purnamasi Devi, she has the ability to completely make everyone in Braja forget that Krishna is God, including Krishna himself. And by her arrangement, all of the pastimes that go on in Braja are going on. She knows how to enable the Lord to enjoy. If Krishna was to remember always that he is God, then how could he ever accept anyone as his mother? That means that all of the pleasure that Krishna gets from being taken care of by Mother Yasoda would not be possible, except for Purnamasi's help, Yoga Maya's help. There would be no possibility of all of these activities. You see here in the Rasa Leela pastime, all the gopis are dancing with Krishna. If for one moment the gopis thought that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the creator of everything, the all-powerful Lord. In other words, as everyone was thinking of Lord Nrsimhadeva, could the gopis dance like this? No. They danced without fear. Lakshmi Devi, in fact, wanted to enter this dance, but she couldn't. Why? Because she couldn't give up the idea that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And I am simply his humble maidservant. I am simply his servant. Just like she thinks of Lord Narayan. But the gopis have a different mood. If Krishna forgets them for a moment, they become very angry with him. They chastise him. So many things they do with him. Their mood of loving Krishna is very different than Lakshmi Devi. Lakshmi Devi is so submissive. She'll never, ever talk back to Narayan. But the gopis will always talk back to Krishna. Radharani and her associates are always chastising, always very difficult to deal with, never giving in very easily. But Lakshmi Devi is completely different. So she performed so many austerities to try and become like a gopi, but she couldn't. She could not. So the Yoga Maya potency works more in Braja than it does in Vaikuntha. Now, this Leela Shakti is at work here in the pastime of Nrsimhadeva. Nrsimhadeva is so much angry, fear, and everyone is fearful. So this point of fear is present in most ideas of religion, in most concepts of religion. You see people come in front of the deities in the temple, and they're fearful. Why? Because they're sinful. And as soon as they come in front of God, they get fearful, because they know what sinners they are, and they're praying to God, please forgive me. Please don't let me have to suffer the reactions for all the sins I have committed. Is this good? Certainly is good. It is good. To be afraid, to be respectful is very good. Otherwise, if you're not remorseful, then how can you overcome sin? So certainly it is good. And therefore, in all the religions practically of the world, we see the power of God is stressed. So that people will know you can get away with it, maybe, in this world, but you'll never get away with anything when it comes to God. You can speed, and maybe the police won't catch you. You can cheat on your taxes, and maybe the income tax department won't catch you. But every single thing you do will be observed by the Lord who is within the heart as Supersoul, the witness of all our actions. Nothing escapes His vision. Therefore people have fear, and we see, like so many scriptures of the world, how God deals with those who disobey His orders. So they're all afraid. Nrsimhadeva certainly causes great fear amongst those who are sinful. Prabhupada even said that they should make a big deity of Nrsimhadeva 40 foot high in Japan. A 40-foot tall deity of Lord Nrsimhadeva for Japan, killing all the demons. He said that all the people there will feel very respectful and devoted and worship that deity. So generally this is, might makes right. Whoever is the most powerful of all is given respect. But we see in the Chaitanya Chaitamrita that Krishna, now we're speaking about Krishna, Shyam Sundar Krishna, this Krishna, Kalachandji. Krishna, in other words, this playful cowherd boy Krishna, he is not very much impressed with this type of mood of fear. He says in the Chaitanya Chaitamrita, here's a verse, that the whole world is full of this type of worship for me, full of awe and reverence, but I'm not captivated, I'm not attracted by this type of mood of worship. It does not appeal to me. I want to rather be loved in a natural way, as Mother Yasoda has loved me, as my friends, the cowherd boys, have loved me, as the cows have loved me, as the gopis have loved me. I want this kind of love. This type of love is so nice that I become submissive to those who have this type of devotion. I become controlled by them. But the world is full of people who have only awe, reverence, based on fear. But I want natural love. So I think that I have to come to teach the world how to do this natural type of love. And for this reason, Krishna came as Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna himself coming as a devotee to teach us how to love Krishna in this very natural, spontaneous way that the residents of Vrindavan have for Krishna. So, we are very fortunate that Srila Prabhupada has brought to us the message, the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, so that we can actually understand properly how to love Krishna in this way. But We can't be fearful. And in order not to be fearful, we should not be sinful. So first of all, we have to free ourselves of sin. And therefore, Srila Prabhupada gave us the process to do this. That same process which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught. The chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. This chanting is so powerful that it will free us from all the accumulated reactions to our previous sins. If we simply chant with full attention and full devotion, without any type of mundane material motivation, then the chanting will help to free us from all sinful reactions. Then, with such a purified heart, we can worship Krishna as he desires that we worship him, in very natural, spontaneous mood, and there will be no fear. So, the worship of Lord Nrsimhadeva has been given to us by Srila Prabhupada as part of the procedure for learning how to worship Krishna without fear. Why? Because Lord Nrsimhadeva is especially worshipped by the devotees of Krishna as he is prayed to in the Brahma Samhita. In the Brahma Samhita we see a prayer to Ganesh, and it is mentioned that the reason why Ganesh is able to destroy the obstacles to material prosperity is that he holds on his tumalai the lotus feet of Lord Nrsimhadeva. Ganesh is a demigod who destroys material obstacles. Therefore we find that those who are eager materialists always keep a picture of Ganesh, Ganapati, in their homes or in their offices. And especially in some places, Ganapati Puja is very popular. Just like in Maharashtra state, and in Gujarat also. But especially we see in Maharashtra, so much Ganapati Puja worship is going on. Why? Because they want to become materially prosperous. Just like so many people pray to God, give me this, give me that. Not only in Maharashtra, not only in India, but in every church, temple, mosque, and synagogue in the world. If we could enter into the minds of the worshippers, we'd see long lists of material desires which are being submitted to God. So they pray to Ganesh. Of course, they don't know about Ganesh in other places, so they pray directly to God. But Hindus are a little bit more advanced, so they know that we don't have to bother God directly. Go to Ganesh, go to the department head. Why take we'll save the real big desires for God himself, but for all of these little things we can go to this god or demigoddess. They have more understanding than the ordinary religionists. So, now in the Brahma Samhita it says that Ganesh destroys material obstacles. How is he able to do this? By the power he gets from from keeping the lotus feet of Lord Nrsimhadeva on his head. But actually, Lord Nrsimhadeva has got a much better thing to give than destroying material obstacles. Those who worship Ganesh, they pray for the destruction of material obstacles. But those who are very intelligent realize that Ganesh's power comes from Lord Nrsimhadeva. And therefore they don't worship Ganesh, they respect him as a powerful demigod. But they worship the Lord of Ganesh, Lord Nrsimhadeva. Now in worshipping Lord Nrsimhadeva, they don't pray in the same way as the devotees of Ganesh. Rather they pray to Lord Nrsimhadeva, please remove all the obstacles in the path of my devotion. And therefore Srila Prabhupada gave us in the very beginning these prayers to offer to Lord Nrsimhadeva. He began with the prayer Tavakara Kamala Bare Nakama Bhuta Shingham Dalitam Niranyakasipu Tanu Brinham Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hari Jai Jagadisha Hari Jai Jagadisha Hari. This is a prayer from Das Avatar Stotra, which is glorifying Nrsimhadeva. So, Prabhupada told us to pray to Nrsimhadeva. And in worshipping Krishna, our devotion has got so many obstacles. What are those obstacles? All kinds of impurities which are within our heart. And these impurities are like demons. So a devotee is praying to Lord Nrsimhadeva that as you destroyed with your nails the demon Hiranyakasipu, you kindly enter into my heart and destroy all the materialistic desires, all those things, whatever they may be, which are blocking me, preventing me from worshipping Krishna with pure devotion. Please free me from these obstacles. This is why we worship Nrsimhadeva. And Prabhupada gave further prayers. Namaste Nrsimhaya Palada Ladadayane Hiranyakasipu Vaksaha Silatanka Nakalai Hito Nrsimha Padato Nrsimha Jato Jato Jami Jato Nrsimha Bahiya Nrsimha Ridaye Nrsimha Nrsimha Madhyam Saranam Prapadye. When did he give us these prayers? When he saw that the Krishna consciousness movement was under attack. Then he gave us these two added prayers in 1970. He gave us an issue. Only protects our individual devotion for Krishna and purifies it, but he also protects the society, ISKCON, because it is a vehicle by which the devotion which we have is nourished. Were it not for our ISKCON society, were it not for the ability to come to our temples, to associate with the devotees, all of the things which ISKCON embodies, were it not for all of these, how is it possible to be Krishna conscious? Practically impossible. Maybe one out of all could do it. Practically we cannot imagine. Prabhupada could do it. We can't see how anyone else could do it. Now that Prabhupada has shown the example, we can follow his example. We can also go to another country where there's nothing and begin, having seen the example and having the strength behind us of the whole ISKCON society. So Prabhupada said that this institution is an expansion of himself. He said, this ISKCON is my body. As the teachings, the books are my vani, my message, ISKCON is my body. And we can also say it is the body of Krishna. It is the body of the Lord. It is his spiritual potency, which makes up the society. It is interesting to note that the danger which ISKCON faced at that time was not external. It didn't come from a court case, because now we have so many dangers coming from court cases, but it didn't come from that. It came from within. It came from the devotees themselves when they deviated from the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. So the greatest danger of all is not from outside, Prabhupada said, but from inside. He made it very clear that our movement can never ever be broken from outside. It can only be broken inside. And therefore he said that we have to maintain the mood of love and trust. He said, how much you cooperate together will be the proof of your love for me. So this praying to Lord Nrsimhadeva should be to protect us also from doing anything harmful to each other or to the Krishna consciousness movement, which is the most painful thing of all. You see that actually when Prahlad was being hurt, this gave the Lord pain. When Lord Nrsimhadeva or Lord Varahadev or any of the incarnations are fighting with the demons, they don't feel any pain. It's mentioned that when Bhishmadev was shooting arrows, Krishna felt the arrows as flowers. When Krishna took different incarnation forms to have fighting, he liked the fight. But when he sees his pure devotee suffering, that actually afflicts him. When Haridas Thakur is being tortured, that gives him pain. When Jesus gets crucified, that gives him pain. When Prahlad becomes harassed, that gives him pain, and he cannot tolerate that pain. So we should be so much careful never to give Krishna pain by causing harm to any living entity, especially not to the devotees and to the Krishna consciousness movement. We should be so much always humble and respectful in regard to our dealings with this society and its members. Because besides the society and its members, what hope is there for the world? So we are praying to Lord Nrsimhadeva. It is so important, this Nrsimhadeva's appearance day, such an important festival day for us. Because Lord Nrsimhadeva is so essential for worshipping in order for us to be able to purify our hearts and to protect our movement. To protect it from ourselves and whatever impurities we have, and to protect it from all outside aggressors as well. So we shall stop here and ask if anyone has any questions or comments. Yes?
He manifests his form for the particular pastime, or in the calendar he decides he also has
this question has often been asked. Is the form of Lord Nrsimhadeva as a half lion, half man only in the earthly pastimes, or is it in the Vaikuntha pastimes? So, one point is this, that the Lord is always present according to the worship of his devotee. So devotees who worship Lord Nrsimhadeva in that form will surely see him that way in the spiritual world as well. Some commentators or some people have opined that this form is only here within this world. But actually the form of the Lord, there is no animal form of the Lord like Varahadeva and Nrsimhadeva. And there is also, I believe, a letter which they show, which Prabhupada wrote. But he also wrote letters in which he said that these forms are all eternal. And Shastra and the Bhagavatam commentators also say that. So, now if there are two opinions, let us say one opinion is that, or one statement is that the form of Lord Nrsimhadeva as a lion appears in the spiritual world, and another one saying that no, there are Narayan forms, not half lion or boar, etc. But the thing is that just like in Krishna's planet, Krishna Loka, Krishna is in all the different ages, simultaneously. Even here you see, he's a small child, he's a young boy. So Krishna's pastimes go on in different prakosta. Prakosta means a chamber. So just like we see there are 3 chambers or divisions in the Sringasan, in the same way there are unlimited chambers in the spiritual world, in Krishna Loka, where all of the Leelas are going on. So Krishna's energy accommodates for Krishna to be a small child as well as a grown-up child, simultaneously, and no one gets confused. So certainly, Lord Nrsimhadeva can be seen in the form which one worships him. If one is attached to that form, whether he has that form or whether he appears as Narayan, he can do both. Why should there? There's no conflict. So that's my adjustment, so that both statements can be. But one thing is this, that if we say that the form of Lord Nrsimhadeva as a lion is not present in the spiritual world, then people will lose faith. They'll think that I'm worshipping a temporary form. They may say so. So it is better to understand that form is eternally there. Matsya, Nrsimha, all of them are eternally there. How it is hard to conceive of, but we should think that way. Yes, good done.
Prabhupada makes the comment on the word kratte. Kratte means eternally assumed form. It's not a temporary form.
Very good. Gadadhar Prabhu has said that Prabhupada stresses the word eternal, that they're not temporary forms. Because anyway, then our devotion, it's just like saying the deity is a temporary form. We don't think that way. Never mind, it may be made of earthly substance, but we never think that way. And if someone says, well, just think about it for a second, we say, no, we don't want to think about it. We don't want to do that second thought. Then immediately there's a fall down in our mind. Arche Vishnu Shiladir Gurushu Naramati Vaishnava. Then we think the deity is stone. We don't want to think that way. We see, when we look, that's Krishna. Krishna is there. And that he is eternal. We cannot imagine that he will ever not be there. So certainly when Prahlad Maharaj... Therefore, these movies, we have to always understand that the movie makers are not perfectly, Shastravit, Vedantavit. They don't know Vedas perfectly. They create, just like some of you may have wondered, well gee, I didn't know this was part of the pastime. Because some of the things are not part of the pastime, they're part of the movie maker's imaginations. They want to increase the dramatic effect of the movie, so they add some things. So you saw at the end, that after Nrsimhadeva was there, then a huge form of Narayan came on the screen. So that, But there's no need of that. For a devotee, he sees Nrsimhadeva, and Prahlad Maharaj didn't need to see Narayan. He was quite satisfied to see Nrsimhadeva. And he saw him as the most beautiful. That was another, unpleasantness of the film, is that they didn't make Nrsimhadeva very beautiful. But actually he's all beautiful. The Barahadev, who is a boar incarnation, certainly we consider a boar, a pig, to be one of the most unattractive animals. But the Bhagavatam says that the incarnation of Barahadev was so beautiful. He had lotus eyes, and his hairs were golden in color. And everybody thought he was most attractive. So they don't know all of these things. Therefore, Prabhupada said the devotees must guide these filmmakers, and if possible, the devotees must act also in the films. Otherwise, the mood does not get conveyed properly. Yeah.
Prabhupada makes another comment about the deities. He says, do you think we are fools that we are worshipping some stone? The point is that why would somebody, if it's considered a stone, come here and bow down? And why are you spending $10,000, $20,000 and all the labor here and flowers and procession?
Simply to worship a stone. They can really say that when they see our Govardhan Shila and used it. What is this? Worship of a stone? And it looks like a stone. But actually we don't see Giri Govardhan as a stone. We think, oh, how beautiful he is. Yes. Yes.
You were relating how Krishna says he's not attracted by this worship and awe and reverence. It seems that that's an essential step for one coming to the worship of the Lord, so it seems like we would be frustrated. We're trying to worship him, yet he's not interested.
Oh, yes. Ramana Prabhu says that we quoted from Chaitanya Chaitamrita that Krishna is not attracted by awe and reverence, yet it seems that awe and reverence is necessary to begin as a beginning step, or an important step in worshipping the Lord, and yet we're finding out now that Krishna is not attracted. That not only I said awe and reverence, I said fear is necessary. Awe and reverence definitely means fear, and it is necessary that we be fearful because we're sinful, so we should be a little bit afraid. As long as we're sinful, we must be afraid that if I continue to sin, I will get punished by God. So Prabhupada explains that the worship that we are doing at this time is the worship of Lakshmi Narayan. He says that when we worship Radha and Krishna, we're actually worshipping Lakshmi Narayan. Krishna can only be worshipped in spontaneous love. Krishna cannot be worshipped in the conditioned stage. Actually, he has to be worshipped practically with spontaneous love. So some element of that spontaneous love has to be there. We can approach, now you may say, well then what hope is there? How do we ever get to that point? Then at least if you have the desire to worship Krishna with that mood, then Krishna will be present, to that extent that you have that desire. And as the desire becomes purified, Krishna becomes more and more the person who you're worshipping. Lakshmi Narayan is the Lord of Vaikuntha, who is worshipped with awe and reverence. So if in your heart you're standing in front of the deity with awe and reverence, then you should understand that since Krishna is the original form of God, and all the other expansions and incarnations are in him, then his Lakshmi Narayan feature is accepting your mood of love. And if you stand in front of him with very natural love, saying, Krishna, you're this, and Krishna, you're a naughty boy, and you're this, then you may be a number one fool. Why do I say that? Because we see that some people they try to address Krishna in a very familiar way, but at the same time, their devotion is not standard. They're doing all kinds of nonsense, other activities. And at the same time, they're talking to Krishna familiarly. So these people are called sahajiyas. And that's also not acceptable. But if we come to the point of being very strict devotees, and always worship with awe and reverence, and then gradually understanding why Lord Chaitanya came. If we hear and remember Krishna's pastimes as they're in the Krishna book, Nectar Devotion, Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th Canto, remembering Krishna this way and praying, please allow me to develop this natural love, then Krishna will hear that. That prayer is heard by Krishna. But you should be a standard devotee to begin with.
Yes, on a similar note, someone may consider that even if the Lord's eternal consort, Lakshmi Devi, could not enter into that last mandala, then what is the hope for someone who's an ordinary conditioned soul?
Yes, Vakunadat says that someone may argue that if even Lakshmi Devi, the consort of Lord Narayan, could not enter into the Rasa Mandala, see, we have Rasa Mandala here. We have so many good helpers to remind us. We have Rasa Mandala Dasi. But Lakshmi Devi, she could not enter into Rasa Mandala. What hope is there for us who are ordinary conditioned souls? There's one hope that we have, and that is the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his descendants. Lord Chaitanya has come to give us what no one else ever gave. Namo Mahavadanaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namani Gurita Shenam. By the grace of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu and all of their associates, we have their teachings which enable us to practically surpass, at least, or we can say if not surpass, at least to develop a type of love which even Lakshmi Devi could not develop. It is by their mercy. By Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy, it is possible. He has made it possible. And even we see that all of the different personalities, when they understood that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was going to appear, they all went to Navadvip Dham to do tapasya. Parvati Devi went there, Shiva went there, Brahma went there. Everyone goes to Navadvip Dham and does tapasya there in order to take birth in the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Lakshmi Devi also comes in Lord Chaitanya's pastimes and becomes his consort. So by the grace of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, something comes also for Lakshmi Devi. Something. But one thing is that everyone who serves Chaitanya Mahaprabhu serves in the mood of dasya, in the mood of a servant of Lord Chaitanya. But they get something, and accordingly, after worshipping Lord Chaitanya perfectly, then they are elevated to their particular rasa with Krishna. So, by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's causeless mercy, what Lakshmi Devi cannot do, we can one day aspire to do.
in regards to praying to Krishna, like we're praying to Lord Nrsimhadeva to protect our devotion and to protect our movement, and different kinds of prayers. The spiritual master, he's known as the external manifestation of the super soul and the mercy incarnation of Srimati Radharani, and the representation of Lord Balaram as the original spiritual master. So, can we also offer these same prayers and meditate like that on the spiritual master?
We can meditate on the spiritual master to request him to give us the courage, the wisdom, the devotion, to make us his eternal servant, to always protect us in so many ways. Yes, because he represents Krishna, he represents Nityananda Ram, he represents Radharani. So whatever we pray to all of these deities, we do through the spiritual master. We cannot pray to Krishna without going through the spiritual master. Everything we do through the spiritual master. Whatever we offer to Krishna goes through Guru, and whatever we receive from Krishna comes through Guru. A devotee never thinks differently, even in the spiritual world. Whoever goes to the spiritual world, who is so fortunate to go there, they are always serving under the guidance of their superiors, even in the spiritual world. By the grace of Yasoda and Nanda, by the grace of Subal, by the grace of Lalita and Vishaka, one offers service to Krishna. And they introduce, ultimately, and how do you get introduced to them? Through those who are dear to them. And how do you get introduced to them? Through your Guru who is there. And all of these things are going through the spiritual master. So we shall always be dependent and always act through the mercy of the spiritual master. And all prayers, whether you know it or don't know it, the Guru is acting.
So when we offer prayers, we're going to Guru.
Everything we do must be with the via media help of spiritual master. Otherwise, what hope do we have? At least I have no hope. I don't think I have any qualification to do anything. I think that because Prabhupada is so important, therefore anything I do may be accepted by the disciplic succession. Otherwise, I have no qualification. And I don't have any qualification, and Prabhupada did have so much qualification, yet he said the same thing. So it means that a disciple should always think that he has no qualification, but only by the grace of his spiritual master and the previous acharyas, something that he's doing is being noticed. And Prabhupada showed that example. He taught us by saying so many times, I have no qualification, it is all the grace of my Guru Maharaj. And surely he had all qualifications. But that is his qualification, that he's only depending fully on the grace of his Guru. That is, what else is there in spiritual life? That is spiritual life. It comes, without this, without Guru Nishta, without firm faith in Guru, nothing else can happen. No matter how one may be knowledgeable, austere, religious, pious, these things will not qualify one without that ingredient. With that ingredient, everything else will be successful. Without that ingredient, those things will not be successful. So therefore, the first thing we do when we wake up, we offer obeisances to our spiritual master. Just like in an ashram, in a gurukul, where the guru is living, before the brahmacharis go to sleep, the first thing they do, the last thing they do, they touch the feet of their spiritual master and they take rest. Even in the home, because the parents are the guru, when the children get up, and they touch the feet of their parents. And when they take rest at night, they'll do the same. At least in the old days. Now, they turn off the TV and just hop into bed. But it used to be like that. Guru was there. And it was very nice how Prahlad Maharaj respected his guru. Even though the guru was, of course, they made the guru out to be, foolish. But the fact is that he still had faith in his guru. He was still thinking, and they are my guru, and still, by their kindness and mercy upon me, I will do all right. He was. Of course, the guru should not be a fool, but at least it shows what nice disciple his mentality was properly portrayed. The filmmakers didn't portray the two gurus very well, the teachers. They were very intelligent. But this is for making an entertaining movie. Madhajis, any questions? Ladies?
From the non-Islam world, the question was questioning why ISKCON emphasized the incarnation of Nrsimhadeva and giving all others so much.
Why is
So much emphasis given?
So much emphasis given to Nrsimhadeva?
Yes, because we usually say that.
As opposed to other incarnations. Because for all the reasons we have said, that he is Bhakti Vigyan Vihantam, he protects and destroys all the obstacles in the course of our bhakti, specifically. He has done this for Prahlad. We see, he has done it for Prahlad. The whole seventh canto of the Bhagavatam is on the glorification of Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj is such a devotee. And his worshipful deity is Nrsimhadeva. It is extraordinary what Nrsimhadeva did. It is extraordinary that God should come for the sake of one person like this, in such a form. They must not know the pastimes of Nrsimhadeva. Who else? What other incarnation they want us to worship? Have they proposed someone else? You tell them to read the seventh canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, then they'll know. I think if they read, they'll know why. He is extraordinary. Who else? Nrsimhadeva is extraordinary. The promises that Brahma made it practically impossible for Hiranyakasipu to be killed. And Narayan couldn't have done it. Even Narayan couldn't kill Hiranyakasipu because then he was promised no one in the shape of a human. So even that Narayan would not do. Krishna could not have killed Hiranyakasipu because he's in the shape of a human. No human, no animal, no this, no that. So he was none of these, or all of these. It's so extraordinary form. They should read this narration, then they'll understand the speciality of Lord Nrsimhadeva. And we have experienced how merciful he is, because you tell them that amongst all the species, the lion is the most unique in the following way. That he's the king of all beasts, but he's very kind to his cubs. That with his teeth, he can destroy every other species. But with those same teeth, he grabs his small cubs with great love and affection. So Lord Nrsimhadeva is like this. He's the most ferocious of all creatures. But for his devotees, he's most affectionate and loving. It was also very interesting in that movie to see how the mothers were portrayed, how Prahlad's mother is portrayed. Very good, because all I could keep thinking the whole time is how all the things she was saying, no mother could ever stand to see her child being burned. No mother could ever stand to see her child being tortured. And on she would say, so, no mother. And yet today, how our Kali Yuga has progressed to such a stage that mothers are killing the baby in their own womb. Their own children, they're killing. It's actually unbelievable. Prabhupada always used to make this point, that what has happened in the Kali Yuga. Because even animals that kill the babies wait until the baby is born. There's no example of this, that someone will kill the infant in the womb. They're not mother. It means they're not mothers. It is not. And not to say only mother, the father does the same now. He orders. It's and Prabhupada used to just become so overwhelmed thinking about how horrible it is. And this is only 5,000 years into Kali Yuga. And it is already going on like this. So that was a very good portrayal, showing how a mother's affection should be. Seeing the example of Prahlad Maharaj's mother. Very, very nicely portrayed. So we should stop here.